All right, I'm back in the garage with my latest purchase, 2013 Mini Cooper Countryman. It's the four-wheel drive turbo version, the S. Pretty nice car. I didn't pay much for it. It's in really good shape. It's dirty right now. There's no dents on it. There's no scratches. There's no rust that I can see. The car was really looked after well, but it's got a couple of things with it. I just put new tires on it, new windshield, maintenance type stuff, changed the fluids. It's making a howl from the back though. These are known to have wheel bearings wear out. It's the bearing and hub assembly. I've got a new one here. So we're gonna put one of these on in this video. It's quite common. The car's got 100,000 miles on it. So if they're original, that's probably time to be replaced. I got these on Amazon of all places. What brand is it? A Premium. A Premium. It's not a brand name like a Moog or anything, but I mean, I've heard with these, it's really hit and miss what you get. They were cheap, they were Amazon, they had good reviews. We'll see how it goes. They're all made in China nowadays. I mean, it's a bit of a crapshoot, but it's the whole bearing and hub assembly that the wheel nuts go right into. So, howling on the highway is how I noticed this. It's quite noisy. Sometimes people say you can rock the wheel back and forth. This one feels pretty tight. The other thing, just going around back here. Let's go around back. Coming around back, you just look at the angle that that wheel's sitting at. I mean, it's really leaned. Like, these have a bit of camber. They lean in a bit, but this one's leaning a lot, right? So as those wheel bearings wear out, you get more and more camber. So the old tires were right worn out along the inside here. Let's jack it up. Jack it up. Just get that wheel off the ground, and it doesn't feel like it has any play. A lot of guys say you can feel it rocking when the bearings are worn out. I've never really felt that. I did a Subaru as well, and it felt tight, but it was totally worn out. So, I mean, it feels fine, but it's making noise. And like I say, this wheel's leaning. So we're going to replace the hub and bearing. Okay, first take the wheel off. That connector goes onto the pad here, this back pad. I'll be careful with that. I think we can maybe just, we can just keep it all together and tuck it up there. With a bungee cord, or I might even be able to just, yeah, we'll tie it back there. All right, the axle nut's 32 millimeter. We'll see if this battery impact will do it. Yep, good. Now that thing, we'll worry about separating that later. Okay, then there's a little 6 millimeter Allen nut holding the rotor on. Oh boy. Nice. Sometimes those can be really rusted in. It's not really necessary to hold it in there, I think, but we'll put it back in because it's in such good shape. All right, coming on around to the underside, the caliper bracket now has to come out so we can get the rotor off. It actually uses these torque style, I guess they're 6-point sockets. You can see that right here and right up there. Put those on there. It's a 14 millimeter 6-point torque style, I think is what you call them. Those are just 3/8 sockets, so hopefully they're strong enough. Got a step down here. There's lots of room back here. I'm going to try it with the ratchet first, and if not, we'll have to try the impact and hope things hold up. Oh boy. Oh man. Breaker bar. Those tiny little sockets. Something's moving. Okay, good, it's turning. Good. This one. Yeah. It's okay. And the bracket's off. Okay. Now the rotor can come off. Set that to the side. Okay, now the bearing itself is held on by 18 millimeter bolts. Again, there's pretty good access in there, so we should be okay to get in there with the breaker bar and or impact and try to get those released. Again, pretty good access to everything. Try this one first. Let's try the breaker bar first. Oh yeah, they're not even that tight. That's good. I was worried about these. This car's not too rusty for being a car that's been driven in some salty roads for about 10 years. That one's coming too, that's good. Yeah, good. I don't know why, it always just makes me feel better to spray this stuff. Oh. I don't think it does anything. Okay, we'll get the other two out and then try and bang this thing out. All right, guys, little update here. These bolts started turning out pretty good, but then they get kind of bunched up with rust here. So I've tried to clean up the rust as much as I can on the threads with a wire brush and sprayed it down with all kinds of stuff, but they get bunched up there, and I don't want to break the bolts. I tried the impact, and the impact wouldn't even move it. So I've just been using a breaker bar to turn them a little bit out and then a little bit in and try and break up some of that rust. Also got the torch out. I've got some MAP gas here, which I don't think you can buy anymore. I've just been heating around the thread there, around where the bolt's kind of stuck in with rust. This might damage a new bearing, but this bearing's garbage anyways. And I've been giving it some heat, heating up one bolt, kind of all the way around the outside of the bolt threads. And then going back underneath the breaker bar, turning at a quarter turn in and out, and slowly working those bolts out. They are coming out. You know, these ones, you can see the thread's still sticking out. These ones I've been working, and they're pretty much flush here now. So they are coming out, and they're starting to get looser. But yeah, the rust really builds up in these threads, so you have to be careful. You wouldn't want to break one of these. So I'm just working at it, heating, undoing, putting back in, counterclockwise, clockwise, heating a bit more, and eventually they're coming out. But it's a time-consuming process. Keep working at it. All right, the bolts are out, the 4 bolts. They were really tough to get out, but with some heat and some working them back and forth, this thing, and it actually popped right out. The axle's still stuck on there. So I think with all of our heating and spraying all this kind of stuff in there all the time, you know, I think that was enough to free the bearing. As soon as the bolts came out, this just popped out. Now we just gotta somehow bang on this without damaging it. I don't know that I want to hit it with a hammer too hard. But somehow we got to release that axle. All right, I've got a 3-jaw puller on here now. Banging on this hasn't really worked. Just going to try and press it out with this puller. Shock it a bit. There we go. And that's it. That wasn't too bad. I've seen some YouTube videos where they get really seized on here. These minis aren't too bad. It's not that long of a shaft. And this car isn't too rusty. Anyway, this one's out. And yeah, this feels pretty rough. Like you can feel, it feels rough. Maybe that's from the banging on it. You know, but the new one, very smooth. All right, now we'll clean this up in here. And installation is reverse of removal. All right, I cleaned this up with a little wheel here. Kind of got rid of the worst of it. The wire brush a little bit in there too. Clean these off. I think it looks pretty good. I'm gonna put a little anti-seize on here to help the next guy. And maybe in here too. I don't think I'm ever going to do this job in this car again, but the next guy might appreciate this. Now, the bearing slide on like that and bolt up from the inside. All right, so we'll go in with our 4 bolts from this side. I might put a little, these had like a thread locker on them. I think that's a bit unnecessary because they were real tough to get out, but it was more due to the rust sticking through. Okay, and then we'll put our 4 bolts in from the other side. All right, I've read different things. I got a torque wrench here. 80 foot-pounds seems to be a number that comes up for these. Feels about right. They weren't that tight when I put them in, when I took them out rather. So I'm just gonna do 80 on the torque wrench. That feels pretty good to me. If you guys have a different number, let me know. but they weren't that tight initially to break loose. Just the rust kind of had them in there tight. And then the axle nut. I've read numbers like 120, 130 foot-pounds. I'm going to impact it on right now just to where the safety catches were before, and I'll torque it later. Yeah, that's about where it was before, so good enough for now. We'll torque it, and we'll push these, bend these little tabs back into the catch there. Okay, coming around to the back, you can see that with the weight back on the wheel, there's much less lean in that. Much less lean side to side, much less timber coming in. There's still a little bit, but it's way less now. So we'll take it for a drive and see how it sounds. But I'm thinking that we've fixed half the problem now. Repeat on the other side. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this helped you change your all-wheel drive Mini Cooper's wheel bearing, or at least give you an idea of what's involved in doing it if you take it somewhere. Thanks for watching.